is the face of Ronald Poppo, a homeless man who's been brutally attacked by a living zombie. On May 26, 2012, he loses his eyes, eyebrows, nose, lips, and face to a man named Rudy Eugene. 80% of his face is eaten on the side of a highway in Miami, Florida, and authorities assume the suspect is having a bad trip due to a new drug on the market that turns people into real-life zombies. However, when the test results come back, the drug report stuns everyone involved. I've done a full breakdown of the case here, and it is grisly.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 27. When 14-year-old George Stinney was executed via electric chair, he was too short for the chair, so he used his Bible as a booster seat. He was later found out to be innocent. In the 1600s, Athanasius Kircher invented a musical instrument made out of cats. He would place them in a row according to the tone of their voice, stretching their tails under a keyboard made out of sharp nails. Texas had absolutely no regulations on natural gas until 1937, when a school blew up, killing 295 students and teachers. No one was held responsible, and the event was so bad that even Hitler sent a letter of condolence. Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. Part 7. The first vibrator in history was invented by Cleopatra. She filled up a hollow gourd with angry bees, causing the gourd to vibrate rapidly, and the rest is history. 4 different popes have died during or because of sex. 2 of a heart attack during, and 2 because they were killed by the husbands of the women that they had an affair with. Immediately after bussing onto his wife, the father of microbiology, Antoine van Leeuwenhoek, whipped out his microscope and observed sperm cells for the first time in human history. According to some accounts, King Tut was mummified with a boner.
If you have an erection that lasts longer than 2,000 years, please contact an archaeologist for immediate medical assistance.
The man who created autopilot, Lawrence Sperry, tested it out by having sex on board with his lover. However, the two bumped the controls and crashed the plane.
This footage shows a man named Luca Magnotta auditioning for a reality TV show years before he would publish 2 dark videos that would shock the internet forever. The first was uploaded in 2010 with the title, "One Boy, Two Kittens," showing a man petting his 2 cats while playing Christmas music in the background. Later in the video, Luca, who doesn't show his face, can be seen suffocating the animals in a plastic bag using a vacuum cleaner. Viewers were deeply disturbed, and people spent months trying to track down the user who uploaded the video. However, Luca remained anonymous for 2 years until May 25th, 2012. He uploads a second video entitled, "One Guy, One Ice Pick." It shows a man bound on a bed, then there's a cut, and the man is now dead. Someone then stabs him with an ice pick and proceeds to dismember the corpse. The victim's body parts are then mailed to local schools and the offices of political parties, with the torso being found in a suitcase. Luca Magnotta is arrested shortly after, and in December 2014, fascinating as fuck. In the year 1996, Ukraine handed over all their nuclear weapons to Russia in exchange for a guarantee to never be threatened or invaded. In 2009, Burger King ran a marketing campaign called the Whopper Sacrifice. Basically, they give you a free Whopper for deleting 10 of your friends off Facebook. Facebook actually had to shut down the campaign because people were getting offended that they were unadded for a Whopper. In the rural homestead communities of the early 1900s, if a mother was unable to breastfeed her baby, a goat nurse would be brought in to feed the baby, saving its life. A Japanese company has recently started selling cakes, but canned and out of a vending machine. They come packaged in what looks like a Coke can, and all you have to do is pop off the lid and dig in. This footage shows a new Japanese game show conducting an experiment to see if humans would fall for a lanternfish's trap. Ethiopia has a totally different calendar to the rest of the world, meaning they're 7 to 8 years behind us. Current year in Ethiopia, 2014. Fascinating as fuck. In the selfies that were taken seconds before Death, Part 2. Businessman Gia Lajuna attempted to take a selfie with a 1.5-ton walrus at a zoo in China. After climbing into the enclosure, the walrus grabbed him from behind, dragged him underneath the water, drowning him in a matter of minutes. Chinese daredevil Wu Yongjing was an Instagram celebrity best known for taking selfies on top of skyscrapers. While trying to take a selfie on top of a skyscraper in 2017, he lost his grip, falling 62 stories to his death. In 2014, during Spain's annual Running of the Bulls event, 32-year-old David Gonzalez decided to stop and take a selfie in front of two bulls that were colliding behind him. All of a sudden, a third bull that he didn't see came from his side and gored him to death. The man smiling in this photo was arrested after hunting down and brutalizing pedophiles, earning him the nickname the Alaskan Avenger. As a kid, Jason Vukovic was sexually and physically abused by his stepfather Larry until he ran away from home at the age of 16. Larry was charged with the abuse of a minor but never served any jail time, and as the years passed, Jason grew haunted by his stepfather. He reached a breaking point in 2016 when he decided to use his state sex offender registry to track down criminals, break into their homes, and beat them with a hammer. In 2018, Jason was sentenced to 28 years in prison and has since come out apologizing for his actions. He says that vigilantes have no place in society and warns that just because your past was taken from you, you shouldn't ruin the future that you have ahead.
Do you remember? Before the Euros, there was a footballer.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 25. In 2012, a group of 10 travelers from New Zealand boarded a hot air balloon. But during the landing process, the balloon collided with the power line, causing it to erupt into flames, killing all 10 people and the pilot on board. This is the last photo ever taken of Kim Wall, a journalist who was stabbed 15 times by Danish inventor Peter Madsen after she boarded his homemade submarine to interview him. This image shows brothers Nick and Jack Savage taken just a few hours before their death. Their mother found them dead in their sleep after experimenting the previous night with opioids just a few days after their high school graduation. This photo of Bart and Kevin Whitaker was taken a few hours before a hitman that Bart had hired attempted to kill his entire family after they returned home from a graduation dinner. Sadly, his father was the only member of the family who survived. Notice Bart's hand.
Okay, this picture of a monkey just sold for $3.4 million, but here's the reason that it might be worth it. The Bored Ape. A princess named Zara Khanam was a symbol of beauty in Persia in the 19th century. She was considered so attractive, in fact, that 13 different men took their own lives when she refused to marry them.
Hello, my friend. Unfortunately, the story
That'll haunt your nightmares. Part 5. When Peter Curtin was just 10 years old, he had his first sexual experience with a goat, and the years that followed, he would regularly do it with other farm animals. At age 13, he killed his first person and would murder over 60 more. In the 1910s, Bela Kiss killed 69 people and tried to pickle them. And when police found their bodies in barrels, they had puncture marks on their neck and they had been drained of all their blood. Pedro Rodriguez Filho killed 71 people both in and out of prison. He was released a few years ago and now has a YouTube channel where he makes fishing videos. Cannibal killer Albert Fish enjoyed shoving sewing needles in his pelvic area while he touched himself. And before too close to a swan's nest. While trying to row away, he fell off his kayak and the swan drowned him underwater. A 14-year-old boy from Texas was playing hide-and-go-seek at 3 in the morning. While trying to run around, he couldn't see all that well and ran face-first into a bull statue. Wanting to reap the benefits of cold exposure, Chelsea Aki Salvacion decided to try out cryotherapy. However, during her session, the machine was set incorrectly, causing all oxygen to be eliminated inside the chamber, suffocating her to death. King Henry I died after eating too many lampreys, a type of jawless fish. In 2013, the corpse of 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson was found rolled up in a gym mat at his high school. Police originally concluded that he had tried to grab his shoe and became trapped, but in 2021, the case was reopened and is believed to be a murder. Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, Part 29. This stroller belongs to a 4-year-old Ukrainian girl named Liza. In July of last year, she and her mother Irina were hit by a Russian missile. This is 23-year-old Ricardo Lopez. Over the course of a few months, he vlogged the entire process of making and sending a bomb to his favorite singer, Bjork. Luckily, the package was intercepted, but not before Ricardo took his life on camera. This X-ray shows an infant victim of the 1999 Brixton nail bombing. A neo-Nazi named David Copeland bombed areas across London, but miraculously, the baby survived. This photo shows 69 boys in a dormitory before it was set on fire in 1959. And while 48 of them managed to escape, 21 of them died in the flames. Further, police never investigated who or what caused the fire.
They were looking at some dirty pictures.
Put God first, kid.
Evil thoughts.
Today's story is about a Christian TV show from the 80s that was taken off air because one of its characters has a dark secret.
If going to church every Sunday makes you a Christian, then going to McDonald's every week must make me a hamburger.
Joy to the world. Joy Junction is the place to be. Joy for you and me.
It's the 1980s, and kids who are raised in a Christian household and are lucky enough to have a TV grow up watching a show called Joy Junction. The variety game show airs on the Christian television network, and it's basically the Christian version of Sesame Street, but on a budget. It seems innocent enough.
Come and join us for a half hour of fun and games at Joy Junction.
It takes place in a fictional village where kids compete in different games while learning valuable lessons from the Bible. And many of these lessons are taught by the show's star duo, Ron and Marty. Ronald William Brown is a Christian man that lives in a trailer park in Florida called Whispering Pines. He makes his living as a ventriloquist, and when he's not performing on Joy Junction, he's doing live shows for kids at schools, churches, and birthday parties. Ron's known around his local community as a fun, generous guy and is pretty good with kids. He invites them over to play games, picks them up and takes them to church, and every Wednesday he hosts a pizza party for all the kids in the community to enjoy free of charge. Fast forward to May 23, 2012. A man from Kansas named Michael Arnett is arrested by Homeland Security for the possession of illegal photographs and videos of minors. Investigators dig deeper to find that he's been communicating with another man via online chat rooms on yahoo.com. Michael uses the screen names CK_366, Sweet Talker Linda, and Calfkeeper2 to communicate with a user named UE And when the agents open up the chats, it is far worse than they thought. Hundreds of videos and images of young people bound, deceased, and posed in inappropriate lewd ways. However, what's even more disturbing is the conversation between Michael and the anonymous user, but more on that later. Investigators managed to track down UE Line by issuing a grand jury subpoena to Yahoo, who were forced to provide the user's email, location, and IP address. They eventually pair the email to a school system in Florida, where they find a man named Ron who's listed as a puppeteer who performs for ages K through 8. They then run a background check to find that there are 2 reported incidents involving the suspect. One of these reports occurs in 1998, where Ron is pulled over for a traffic violation and a police officer notices a pair of young boys' underwear wedged between his front seat. The report reads that when questioned about this, Ron says that these were simply clothes for his puppet, so he's let off the hook. Another report from 2010 is made by one of Ron's neighbors.
They'd come with their bikes and their skateboards and they'd hang out waiting for him to come home.
She claims that he's taking young boys in his vehicle to church without their parents' permission. She'd also claimed that Ron had locked up all the boys' bikes and skateboards in his trailer and described him as a bit off. July 17th, 2012. 2 months after the arrest of Michael Arnett, investigators come across a website called cutedeadguys.net. It's there they find a profile of a man named Ron from Florida. He states in his interest, quote, "I love them young and dead. I enjoy them fresh, but like to see them displayed in their caskets too." His bio states that he has a strong interest in necro, meaning that he has a sexual preference toward the dead. Homeland Security links the IP of this user to Ron Williams and issues a federal search warrant at his mobile home. Officers then knock at the door, Ron opens up, and he's immediately taken out of his home and thrown to the ground in handcuffs. They then begin searching throughout his trailer, where they find DVDs, VHS tapes, and a thumb drive, all containing various pieces of illegal media.
It's evidence this guy's neighbors call simply disgusting.
They then step into Ron's bedroom, where they open up his sock drawer to find a CD with videos of a child, and right next to it, a missing child poster. On Ron's computer, they discover a folder titled Castin. They double-click it to find photos of a young child displayed inappropriately across a metal table. They then proceed to open up Yahoo and find that his screen name is, you guessed it, U-E-Li. Ron then admits that he's a part of a Yahoo strangle group and regularly chats with the users CK_366, Sweet Talker Linda, and Calfkeeper2. And these three usernames all of course belong to Michael Arnett, and the conversations between him and Ron are quite disturbing. Ron tells him about his plan to kidnap a young boy from his church and do unspeakable things to him. Michael then recommends different methods to cause the boy pain, and the two get particularly excited about the idea of eating him. Ron then says that Michael had actually tried to meet up with him in Florida, but claims he didn't do it because he had no interest in living out these twisted fantasies. In 2013, Ronald William Brown is sentenced to 20 years in prison, is registered as a sex offender, and will never again be able to use the internet or have contact with children. Now, some argue that this sentence is actually too harsh, considering the average punishment for this act is 8 years. However, Judge James Whitmore, the person presiding over the case, says differently. Perverted is not a strong enough word to describe what you've been engaging in. The risk is that obsession becomes more than fantasy. At what point does that line between fantasy and risk of threat get crossed? Ron's case is part of Operation Halitna, which is a multi-year international investigation led by Homeland Security. To this day, over 160 children have been rescued, with more than 50 perpetrators being arrested worldwide as a result of the investigation. Operation Halitna continues to work hard, trying to put a stop to this network of criminals sifting through hundreds of thousands of pieces of evidence. They're forced to read disturbing chats as well as view images and videos of children, all in an effort to see if these men are truly living out their dark desires. In hindsight, it's fair to assume that Ronald William Brown should have taken his own advice.
I said, Marty, come over here and take a look at our pictures. So I walked on over there and I took a look. And do you know what it was? What was it, Marty? Well, it was in Arizona, I'll tell you that right now. Ron, they were looking at some dirty pictures and they wanted me to look too. You know, that kind of reminds me of a verse I'm thinking of in the Bible that's found in 2 Timothy 2:22. And it says that you should run away from anything that will give you evil thoughts. And as your companions, you should have friends who have pure and clean thoughts and will only give you good ideas. I decided to turn around and go right back home.